Hi, my name's Jenny Leone, and I'm an alcoholic. So my story starts a long, long time ago when I was just a little girl. And going back that far, it will give you a good idea as to why I became who I was, why I got mixed up in drugs and alcohol, and how I found my way into recovery. So, going back to a very young age, unfortunately, I was molested as a child. And so, that went on in my childhood. And from that moment on, I always wanted to numb my feelings. And, as a child, as a teenager, and even as an adult until I got into recovery, I didn't realize that when you numb the stuff that's hurting, you numb all the good stuff too. From a very young age, I was, over sexualized. I was always trying to, be out there dating guys, being defiant, running around with the wrong people, trying to find my way, and struggling internally at the same time. And I would just make the most ridiculous, impulsive decisions that could ever imagine. I came out at 19. I didn't know anybody but my manager at the time. And I came out with a suitcase, $3,000, and the intent to marry an American for a green card. Can I say that? When I got out to the States, that's when I really started diving into a lot of prescription medications. So I was taking Xanax, I was taking Adderall because I had ADHD, and I was taking pain pills. And so that was like my three things that I would take. And I would take one to come up, one to come down, and something in between. So I did that for a very long time while I was, pursuing a modeling and acting career. I landed some pretty good gigs. I got my SAG and AFTRA card and felt like, okay, maybe I'm on my way, but the drugs kept holding me back one way or another. And so I wanted to make money. That was my thing. I wanted nice things. I was very materialistic in my early 20s. And one day I got a call from a lady named Jenna Jameson, who ended up being a very good friend of mine for many years. And she said to me, hey, would you ever think about doing adult stuff, adult modeling, adult acting, things like that? And I thought, well, I hadn't really thought about it, but I'm open to hear what you have to offer. So I ended up flying out to see her, and I got contracted as the top girl contract star ever for the adult industry. And this was back in the day where people were watching like actual videos, and it wasn't all online yet, and it was a lot of magazine work. So at one point in time, I was on more magazine covers than any adult model. I think I have them, which is pretty funny. I'll go through them once in a while just to look and be like, wow, I can't believe that was me, And I think at one point I was on like 15 covers. So I was like Penthouse Pet in different countries and Playboy and all these different things. And I was an AKA, meaning I had another name I went by. And I'm sure you can imagine if you're on drugs and you go by another name, like, who are you? Like, I had absolutely no sense of self, and I was just completely engulfed in this world that was not normal. But for the people that were in it, it was normal. And so it was like this really weird time in my life, like a good 10 years of just partying, traveling around the country, hanging out with all sorts of people. And it wasn't uncommon for people to be popping pills and doing God knows what. The main event, that really like pushed me into, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And that was one of the executives at Playboy raped me, and I ended up suing Playboy for millions of dollars. And I ended up walking away from that lawsuit because I was so sick in my addiction, and I was portrayed as this drug addict, and this was this innocent man. They just like ripped my life apart. And I just couldn't deal. And I thought, I'm going to die before this case is over if I keep trying to pursue this. So I ended up walking away from it, and that person got off scot-free. And I kind of just was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. And so after that, I still didn't get sober. I had my son, still didn't get sober. And people try to say, oh, well, your children should get you sober or be able to keep you sober. And as horrible as it is to say, they can't. Like, you have to get sober because you want to get sober. And so I started trying to do all these things to like keep me out of modeling, to, push me in the right direction. And so I was like, I'm going to start getting heavily tattooed. I'll get heavily tattooed and then I won't get hired anymore in any modeling. And so I started getting tattooed. I got my back piece, and that didn't work. I was still, getting hired for things, not adult, but other things. And it just kept me in that lifestyle though. And I knew that if I was going to change my life, I would have to walk away from that life completely and start over as me, as Jenny Leone, and not this AKA that I'd been living for a very long time. And so that's what I did. It came to the point where I was living with an ex, and I had a gun in one hand, and I had my life in the other hand. And I knew in that very moment that if I didn't pick my life, I was going to die. And so here we are, fast forward, here I am sitting here telling you guys my story as I embark on this Recover Out Loud movement to show the world that no matter who you are, where you're at, what stage of your life, where you came from, where you think you're going, recovery can fit into all of that. And it can be fun, and it can be beautiful, and you can stay connected, and you can have a community of people around you that can relate, that can love you unconditionally, and they won't judge you. And so for me, I recover out loud, and I want to be that person for other people.